8 years had passed since they last saw each other, but for the bear, it felt like only moments. The caretaker, a kind-hearted man who had once cared for him, now stood on the other side of the fence, gazing into the eyes of the bear he had raised. It wasn't just a casual encounter, it was a moment that would change both of their lives forever. The bear, having grown large and powerful, now looked like a creature from the wild, but the recognition in his eyes was unmistakable. The man's heart raced. He hadn't seen the bear since the day he had to let him go, for both of their sakes. The bear had been young and full of energy, and while the caretaker had raised him with love and care, there had always been a sense that the bear belonged in the wild. It was a difficult decision, one that had torn him apart, but it was the right choice. Letting the bear go into his natural habitat had been a bittersweet goodbye. In the years that followed, the caretaker had thought about the bear every single day. He often wondered how the bear was doing, whether he was thriving in the wild, if he had found a family or a new place to call home. Though the bear had been released into the wild, a part of the man's heart would always be with him. And now, here he was, standing in front of the bear once again, and the overwhelming emotions he felt were almost too much to bear. As the bear slowly approached the man, the bond they shared seemed to transcend time. The man reached out hesitantly, unsure if the bear would even remember him. But there it was, the subtle recognition in the bear's eyes. The bear paused, sniffing the air, and took a few tentative steps forward. It was as if the years had melted away, and the connection they once shared was still there, strong and unbreakable. The bear's steps grew more confident as he got closer to the man. His massive body moved with a grace that belied his size, and the air was thick with anticipation. For a moment, everything stood still. The man couldn't move. He was entranced by the sheer presence of the bear. The bond they shared was not something that could be explained in words. It was the bond of a caretaker and the animal he had cared for like his own child. For the bear, it was a bond of familiarity, comfort, and trust. The 8 years apart had not diminished the love they had once shared. When the bear was close enough, he reached out with his paw, and the man instinctively reached back. They touched, and for that moment time seemed to freeze. The bear's warm, massive paw enveloped the man's hand, as if reassuring him that everything was going to be okay. The man's eyes welled with tears, his heart swelling with emotion. He had never imagined this moment would come, but now that it had, it was more powerful than he could have ever anticipated. The bear let out a low grunt, a sound that was both familiar and comforting. It was a greeting, a reminder of the days when the man would feed him, play with him, and protect him. The bond was unspoken but understood, a connection forged through years of care, patience, and love. The man smiled through his tears, his heart full of gratitude. He never thought he would see the bear again, and yet here they were, reunited in such a profound way. The bear then sat down in front of the man, his massive body taking up a lot of space, but he seemed calm, at ease, as though he was content to simply be in the presence of the man he once called his family. The man couldn't stop smiling. It was as though he was seeing a long-lost friend, someone he had missed terribly, but now they were together again. In the stillness of the moment, the man felt as though he had traveled back in time. The memories of the bear's early days flooded his mind. The first time they met, the way the bear would follow him around, the way he would curl up next to him at night for warmth and comfort. All of those memories came rushing back, and he was overwhelmed by a sense of nostalgia, love, and loss. The years of separation had been hard, but now, in this moment, everything felt right again. The man gently reached for the bear's head, his fingers brushing through the thick fur. It was a familiar gesture, one that the bear had always welcomed. The bear leaned into the touch, his eyes closing for a moment, enjoying the attention. It was as though he had never left, as though the years apart hadn't changed the bond they shared. For the bear, life in the wild had been difficult at times. He had learned to survive, to hunt, to navigate the challenges of the forest. But even in the wild, he had never forgotten the man who had cared for him. There were times when he would think about the man, about the safety and love he had experienced in the caretaker's presence. It was a memory that stayed with him, even as he grew into the wild animal he was now. As the bear sat there, basking in the attention, the man couldn't help but wonder what the future held. Would the bear stay with him? Would he return to the wild once more? The man knew that the bear was a wild animal, and as much as he wanted to keep him by his side, he understood that the bear's place was in the wild. That was where he truly belonged. But for now, in this moment, the man was content to simply be with him, to share this precious reunion, and to honor the bond they had once shared. The reunion lasted for hours. There was no rush, no pressure to make a decision. The man and the bear simply enjoyed each other's company, as though the years apart had been nothing more than a brief moment in time. The man sat next to the bear, running his fingers through the thick fur, while the bear occasionally nuzzled him as if to say thank you, to say that he was happy to be here in this moment. As the sun began to set, casting a warm golden glow over the forest, the man knew that this moment would forever be etched in his memory. He would carry this reunion with him for the rest of his life, knowing that he had been part of the bear's journey, and that the bear had been a part of his own. The bond between them was unbreakable, forged through years of love and care. And though they would eventually part ways again, the memories they had shared would stay with them forever. The bear stood up and took a few steps back, his eyes never leaving the man. It was as if he was telling him that it was time. Time to go, time to return to the wild, to the life he had made for himself. The man stood as well, his heart heavy but full of love. He knew it was time to let go again. This time it wouldn't be as painful. The bear had found his place in the world, and the man had found peace knowing that he had given the bear the freedom he needed. With one last look, the bear turned and began to walk away, his powerful legs moving with grace through the forest. The man stood still, watching the bear disappear into the distance. It was a silent farewell, one that was full of love and understanding. The bear had his life and the man had his memories. And in those memories they would always be together. A weathered wooden gate, its paint peeling, stood as the entrance to the sanctuary, a haven for rescued animals. Within, the air vibrated with the sounds of life, the soft snorts of deer, the playful chatter of monkeys and the deep, resonant growls of bears. Among them, Baloo, a magnificent Carpathian brown bear, lumbered through his enclosure, a vast space replicating his natural habitat. His thick, brown fur, once gleaming, now bore the marks of time and the scars of a life lived in captivity before rescue. His eyes, though, held a deep, knowing intelligence, a silent story etched within their depths. Baloo, for 8 long years, had called this sanctuary home, a refuge from the cruelties of his past. Elena, a woman with eyes as warm as the Romanian sun and hands that bore the gentle strength of years spent caring for animals, approached Baloo's enclosure. Her footsteps, light and familiar, were a sound Baloo knew well. Elena was more than a caretaker, she was a beacon of kindness, a constant presence in a life marked by upheaval. She had nursed him back to health, patiently coaxed him out of his shell of fear, and taught him to trust again. But 8 years ago, Elena had left the sanctuary, her life taking her on a different path, leaving a void in Baloo's world. Her return was unexpected, a whisper of a possibility that had blossomed into reality. She had heard whispers of Baloo's continued well-being, the stories of his gentle nature and the way he interacted with other animals. The pull of her past, the unspoken bond she shared with the animals she had cared for, had proven too strong to resist. Elena stood at the edge of Baloo's enclosure, her heart pounding a rhythm of anticipation and a touch of trepidation. 8 years was a long time. Would Baloo remember her? Would the connection they had forged still exist? Baloo, sensing her presence, paused in his slow, deliberate pacing. His massive head lifted, his gaze locking onto hers. A low rumble, a sound that could have been a greeting or a question, emanated from his chest. Time seemed to stand still. Elena's eyes filled with tears, a mixture of joy and a profound sense of homecoming. She took a tentative step forward, her voice a soft murmur, "Baloo, it's me." Baloo's reaction was not immediate. He studied her, his eyes searching, his massive body still. Then a subtle shift occurred. His ears twitched, his head tilted slightly, and a flicker of recognition ignited in his eyes. He took a slow, deliberate step towards the fence, his gaze never wavering from Elena's. He approached the fence, his massive paws patting softly on the earth. Elena reached out, her fingers trembling, and gently touched the wire mesh. Baloo responded by pressing his nose against the fence, his breath warm on her fingertips. A low, guttural sound rumbled from his throat, a sound that was neither a growl nor a roar, but a deep, resonant expression of something profound. Elena's tears flowed freely now, a testament to the depth of the connection they shared. She spoke to him in soft, soothing tones, recounting stories of their past, reminding him of the gentle touch, the shared moments of quiet companionship. Baloo listened, his eyes fixed on her, his body relaxed, his posture no longer tense. He began to nuzzle the fence, pressing his head against the wire, his massive body swaying gently. Elena responded by gently stroking his fur through the mesh, her touch as familiar as the rhythm of her own heartbeat. Baloo closed his eyes, a sigh escaping his lips, a sound of contentment, of recognition, of reunion. The other animals in the sanctuary seemed to sense the significance of the moment. The monkeys quieted their chatter, the deer paused in their grazing, and even the normally boisterous wolves seemed to hold their breath, as if paying silent tribute to the reunion unfolding before them. Baloo's behavior changed. He began to exhibit playful gestures, rolling onto his back, exposing his belly, a sign of complete trust and vulnerability. He nudged a large, worn-out log towards Elena, a gesture she recognized as an invitation to play, a game they had often shared in the past. Elena laughed, a sound of pure joy, a melody that echoed through the sanctuary. She reached for the log and Baloo, with surprising agility, nudged it back towards her, a playful twinkle in his eyes. They continued their game, a silent conversation of affection, a language spoken without words. The sun began to set, casting long shadows across the sanctuary. The air cooled and the sounds of the day began to fade, replaced by the nocturnal symphony of the forest. Elena knew it was time to leave, but she lingered, reluctant to break the spell of the moment. She leaned against the fence, her gaze locked on Baloo's. He sat before her, his massive body relaxed, his eyes filled with a gentle warmth. He reached out a paw, his claws retracted, and gently placed it on the fence, close to her hand. Elena placed her hand against his paw, the rough texture of his skin a familiar comfort. They remained like that for a long moment, a silent exchange of love, a connection that transcended the boundaries of species and time. As she turned to leave, Baloo let out a soft, mournful sound, a sound that echoed through the sanctuary, a sound of farewell, a sound of hope. Elena turned back, her eyes filled with tears. She blew him a kiss, a silent promise to return. Baloo watched her go, his gaze following her until she disappeared into the shadows. He then turned and walked slowly towards his den, his gait heavy, his heart full. He carried with him the memory of her touch, the sound of her voice, the warmth of her presence. The next day Elena returned. Baloo was waiting for her, his eyes bright, his body alert. They spent the day together, playing, exploring, and simply enjoying each other's company. Elena brought him his favorite treats, berries and honey, and Baloo shared his favorite napping spot, a patch of sunlight beneath a towering oak tree. Days turned into weeks, and Elena became a regular presence at the sanctuary. She spent her days with Baloo, rekindling their bond, rebuilding the trust that had been forged years ago. She learned about his life in her absence, the challenges he had faced, the friendships he had formed. Baloo, in turn, learned about Elena's life, her experiences, her dreams. He listened patiently as she spoke, his eyes filled with understanding, his presence a constant source of comfort. Their reunion was not just a fleeting moment of nostalgia. It was a testament to the enduring power of love, the unbreakable bond between humans and animals. It was a story of forgiveness, of healing, of the transformative power of kindness. The sanctuary, once a place of refuge, became a place of celebration, a living testament to the extraordinary connection between Baloo and Elena. Their story spread, a beacon of hope, a reminder that even after years of separation, love can find its way home. Baloo, once a solitary creature, became a symbol of resilience, a testament to the power of second chances. Elena, once a woman searching for her purpose, found her calling in the eyes of a bear, a reminder that love is the greatest gift of all. Their story, etched in the heart of the Carpathian Mountains, became a legend, a whisper carried on the wind, a reminder that the bonds of love, once forged, can never truly be broken. The long shadow of affection cast by their reunion stretched far and wide, touching the hearts of all who heard their tale, a testament to the enduring power of love in its purest form.